In his Beyond Vietnam speech, Dr. King declared, "A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death." King's speech laid bare the relationship between the U.S. wars abroad and the racism and poverty being challenged by the civil rights movement at home. We believe that Dr. King's words were both precautionary and prophetic, providing both a diagnosis and a cure, a true revolution of values for our society's gravest illnesses, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism.
We have destroyed their two most cherished institutions, the family and the village. We have destroyed their land and their crops. We have cooperated in the crushing of the nation's only non-communist revolutionary political force, the Unified Buddhist Church. We have supported the enemies of the peasants of Saigon. We have corrupted their women and children and killed their men. What liberators? Now there is little left to build on, save bitterness. Soon the only solid physical foundations remaining will be found at our military bases and in the concrete of the concentration camps we call fortified hamlets.
Okay, so here I am in Hillary Ronin's office. She's a District 9 supervisor, and she took notice of the community murals that I did in the Portola district and my tweets of the social activism that I've been involved with, and invited me to have a show in her office here at City Hall of District 9, which is the Mission District, Bernal Heights, and the Portola district where I live. This is a picture from Bernal Heights, looking over the city here. I did this for a program called San Francisco Beautiful. I did 8 paintings that got printed and displayed on the inside of Muni buses as like a rolling gallery of images. The theme was connected communities. So every community has a signature view from the top of a hill. We have so many hills in San Francisco. So I tried to do a signature view of 8 different neighborhoods called Connected Perspectives of San Francisco's Neighborhoods. This is a series of oil paintings of various scenes designed to echo the poems that we combine with them and connect communities through their different perspectives. Every neighborhood has a hill with a long view of the bay that instills a sense of awe and raises you above the fray. I included several Muni buses because they literally keep our communities connected.
At this point, I should make it clear that while I have tried in these last few minutes to give a voice to the voiceless on Vietnam and to understand the arguments of those who are called enemy, I am as deeply concerned about our troops there as anything else.
So this is the Portola long view. This is our view from our neighborhood of the San Francisco skyline. I did this for the San Francisco Beautiful series, and then a year and a half ago, I painted a large-scale mural in the Portola district during the COVID. And it was great because I was able to interact with the community, and I could tell that it gave people a sense of pride, a sense of strength, and hope that we were going to survive this thing. And then this is our signature Avenue Theater, which we just restored with a new neon sign, and my fiance, Lisa, with one of the poems that's called Just to Write. You can see that she's writing there. And then this was the concept art for the mural I painted in the Portola district, but the location changed, so the format changed. So I ended up painting just the center part. This is concept art that was painted on the computer. And then here we have a view from McLaren Park, looking downtown. It's easy to to lose yourself in McLaren Park and feel like you're not even in the city.
Meanwhile, we in the churches and synagogues have a continuing task while we urge our government to disengage itself from a disgraceful commitment. We must continue to raise our voices if our nation persists in its perverse ways in Vietnam.
And behind me is a triptych, a mural that I painted about 3 times the size that you see here, on the side of Grocery Outlet on Silver Avenue in the Portola District, about the Portola District, then and now. So I always do a lot of research and interview people when I do my murals. I consider them community murals. I always go into a little bit of history of the community. My style is social realism, otherwise known as regionalism. So I started out with the original inhabitants, the Ohlone Indians, the Ramaytush Ohlone Indians, floating down Islas Creek, which is what is now 280. It's been filled in. There's still a little bit of it left in the bay, in the Bayview. And then on top of the hill was the first Spanish explorer to come across the Bay Area, Caspar de Portola, which is the name of our district, the Portola District. And then this is Jerry Garcia. He was born up on the hill there. And this is the Jerry Garcia Amphitheater, where we celebrate his birthday every August with a bunch of jam bands. And dancing there are the Maltese. We have the largest population of Maltese outside the island of Malta.
I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered.
Initially, we had a lot of Italian and Maltese immigrants. That's what those kids on the truck are. That's my self-portrait in the truck. And then those are all the people that volunteered to help me. And all the volunteers participated, giving a sense of community and ownership. And in the middle, we have some more Italian immigrants with our greenhouses. We're known as the Garden District. We used to have blocks and blocks of greenhouses and nurseries. We used to grow flowers for Central California. And then in World War II, the Portola District started growing victory gardens, and that's how the Alemany Farmers Market was started. We still have 4 blocks of greenhouses that we're trying to save from development. And we've reached a deal with the developer that if we raise enough money, we can buy some of these greenhouses back because they're the last ones in San Francisco. And we want to start a community garden with these greenhouses here. And so we used to be famous for roses, which the Grateful Dead used in their iconology. This Tai Chi practitioner, that was my Tai Chi teacher, and this represents the growing Chinese population in our neighborhood. It's always been a neighborhood of immigrants, so the population's always changing. When I first moved there in '94, it seemed to be fairly evenly mixed, but it's lately become almost 50% Chinese. And then I put the rainbow flag in there, which started with the Grateful Dead and the hippie movement, and then turned into an icon for the gay flag. But the gay flag is actually 6 colors instead of 12, and that's those houses on the horizon representing our growing gay community.
All over the globe, men are revolting against old systems of exploitation and oppression, and out of the wombs of a frail world, new systems of justice and equality are being born. The shirtless and barefoot people of the land are rising up as never before. The people who sat in darkness have seen a great light. We in the West must support these revolutions.
And then we have a woman here who runs a uniform shop, Ruth, a school uniform, and she's putting a school uniform on my son's friend's son, Martin Luther King Jr. That's his school uniform. And then we still have our Avenue Theater, which we recently renovated. We used to have a trolley car, but we don't have a trolley car anymore, but plenty of public transportation. And then we have this column that supports the freeway that a young artist painted, our blue garter snake, which is native to our area. So some of these storefronts are from businesses in the past. This is the Palega Playground, a community center where I actually take Tai Chi classes. You can take a lot of classes, and they have a lot of programs for adults and kids, exercise, dance, and so on and so forth. So,
when I speak of love, I'm not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I'm speaking of that force which, for all of the great religions, have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. The Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist belief about ultimate reality is beautifully summed up in the first epistle of St. John. Let us love one another, for love is God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not God, for God is love. If we love one another, God dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us.
This wall is devoted to the mission. I call it my Mission in the Rain series, which is a song by Jerry Garcia about walking around the rain in the mission. I was fascinated with all the reflective lights from the neon lights. All these smaller images are photographs, and the larger ones are oil paintings. This is the one of an old record store called Ritmo Latino, which isn't there anymore. And this other one is one of the many produce markets. I have one image in here that continues the Mission in the Rain series, which is La Victoria, famous for its tomatoes. And then we're transitioning into my Dia de Muertos series. I've been attending Dia de Muertos every year for 20 years, shooting photographs and video. I also went to see Dia de Muertos in Mexico and Peru. These are all from San Francisco. I played around with long exposures to catch the light trails because I thought that made them look like spirits. Like you see how the light's trailing up and her body just disappears into the darkness there. This is a Carnival picture.
We must move past indecision to action. We must find new ways to speak for peace in Vietnam and justice throughout the developing world. A world that borders on our doors. If we do not act, we shall surely be dragged down the dark and shameful corridors of time reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. Now let us begin. Now let us redirect ourselves to the long and bitter but beautiful struggle for the new world. This is the calling of the sons of God, and our brothers wait eagerly for our response.
And these are some more images of the Portola district, known as the Garden District. We have a billboard that you can see from the freeway that says the Garden District. We also have a large park called McLaren Park. It's almost as large as the Golden Gate Park, but it's left naturally. It's not as landscaped as Golden Gate Park. I volunteered to help make this mosaic out of a bench in our neighborhood. This is Dana Albany. She's leading the effort. And we are collaborating on a new work of art together. This is a Tai Chi practitioner up at McLaren Park on the lake there. And this is me playing basketball. And then below that is La Loma Produce Market. They also have a butcher. And then below that is the San Francisco skyline as seen from McLaren Park. This is a continuation of my Carnival series. I didn't know if Hillary Ronan would approve. So I was going to put them in the hallway, but they insisted on putting them out here where they could enjoy them. The staff seems to enjoy having these lively pictures on the wall. The King and Queen of Carnival, another King and Queen of Carnival, and another King and Queen of Carnival, happening in the Mission District every May, at the end of May. We have Carnival. And what's unique to San Francisco is we have Carnival floats from all different cultures throughout South America, Africa, even some of the Asian countries make a Carnival float. So I think we've completed the whole tour. Thank you for hearing me out. All right, Peter, I think we did it. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you all for coming to this meeting today. The Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, has picked up Dr. King's unfinished work, weaving the interlocking injustices of systemic racism, systemic poverty, environmental devastation, militarism, and the war economy, and a distorted moral narrative of Christian nationalism into one moral fusion campaign. As you can see, the different speakers here were a moral fusion campaign. This year's public readings are part of a mobilization by the California Poor People's Campaign, building towards the June 18, 2022 mass poor people's and low-wage workers assembly.
Before I introduce Francisco Herrera, who's going to be performing for us, I'd like to warm the crowd up a little bit with a little call and response. When I say, when we lift up from the bottom, you say, everybody rises. When we lift up from the bottom,
Everybody rises!
when we lift up from the bottom,
Everybody rises!
when we lift up from the bottom,
Everybody rises!
fight poverty, not the poor. Fight poverty,
Not the poor!
fight poverty,
Not the war!
fight poverty.
Not the poor!
Whose vote? Our vote.
Our vote!
Whose vote? Our vote. Whose vote? Our vote. Whose democracy?
Our democracy!
Whose democracy? Whose democracy?
Our democracy!
Thank you, everybody.